Let's talk about beef. So this has been an internal conversation I've been having with myself for a little while now, and this show kind of came at like such a great time. So if you're not familiar with the show, I do recommend that you watch it. I don't want to say my rating until the end of this video. Even if you read the synopsis, it's not gonna give what my biggest takeaway from it was. It sounds like really stupid, and honestly most of it is. If you haven't watched it, go watch it first. It's like 10 episodes and you could probably finish it in like 2 or 3 days. But if you don't care, carry on watching. The cover is what intrigued me. The art was really cool. Then somebody told me it's one of the best shows on Netflix, so I was like, okay, I need to watch it then. At first it was like really like, whoa, there's like a lot of emotions here.
Every day! Where the do you think you're going? Oh my god, you idiot. What are you doing? Whoa. Stop. Stop.
I feel like we've all been in that situation where we feel a bit of road rage ourselves, but I've learned to let that go throughout the years. When you put things in perspective, it's not even about you. If you're wasting energy, getting angry at somebody else in their car for a simple mistake, just let it go. And this show teaches you just that. These little things that we give so much of our emotions to literally don't matter, and we put so much energy into them. We don't put enough energy into what actually matters, like when you are laying on your deathbed or on the forest floor. What is a conversation that you want to have? And it's like those thought-provoking things just become like, I mean, they were high in the video, but things just become like really real.
That's why I don't believe in God.
What do you mean?
Why would a God make it like this?
Well, if God is everything, then we're God. That means God is just like us. Maybe that's why everything is the way it is.
God's just trying not to feel alone in nothingness.
You have never talked to anybody like this before.
Me neither.
I feel like when you had these pivotal experiences like they had in the show, you just have these realizations and things just become very clear. When I first started my spiritual journey, that's something that I wanted, was to just like see things clearer and to have deeper and more meaningful conversations and not just be so surface level or talk about gossip all the time. There are conversations that can literally change your life. It can change the way that you see things, and that's something that I really wanted. This show, at first, I didn't like it. I thought some of the acting, especially from Isaac, I thought some of the acting was just like horrible and I didn't want to continue. But then I asked my friend if she would recommend me watch it to the end, and she said yes. So I'm glad I did, because a lot of the stupidness, when you make it through that part, I would say like the last 3 episodes are definitely the best ones. It's worth it. And I think there are so many people that go into watching this show not expecting the outcome of it. It has like a lot of lessons, especially for families that don't communicate. I will say that I was not raised to be a strong communicator. I kept a lot of things to myself. That ultimately bled into my relationship now and caused a lot of arguments in the beginning of my relationship. They say communication is everything, and it really is everything. And if you don't know how to communicate, or if you don't even know how to initiate conversation, you keep things to yourself, that will not get you anywhere. It will create a lot of room for resentment, and sweeping things under the rug is the worst thing. I believe that these traits, like in the show, you get these traits passed down onto you from your parents. There is so much that we learn unconsciously from our parents that we carry on with us for the rest of our lives, and it's not until we are faced with other people with differing opinions or attitudes or lifestyles that we realize like, okay, maybe that's not normal. Maybe it's not okay to keep things to yourself. Maybe we should learn how to vocalize things as they're happening and to not hold on to these negative emotions and just explode one day. And that's one of the biggest things that I have been working on is communication. There was just like this uncomfortability with talking about deep things. Like these deep conversations should honestly just be normal conversations. Say someone was talking about something deep, I would look at them like,
okay, bro, that's so deep. Like, it's not that deep.
In reality, we are really complex beings. We are constantly reacting to things. When you're able to vocalize that with someone, say someone hurt your feelings or whatever, if you have the ability to reach out in that moment and just say how you feel, it will save you a lot of hurt and self-sabotage later on. I used to blame myself so much for these awkward instances and just like reflect on them and be anxious about them, when in reality, like you can just let go. That's something that I learned, is like if you can't let go of something, then you need to talk about it. Another thing that I learned, and this was something that I actually first heard from Russell Brand. He was on a podcast. If you're not aware of Russell Brand, he was a very controversial figure in Hollywood, you know, just got into drugs and just scandals and all that stuff, but he turned his life around and now he's a very spiritual YouTuber. I do not watch him, but that's just what I know of him. I saw that he was on a podcast, and so I listened to his episode. Being like such a controversial person to now being very spiritual and just on like this amazing journey, I just wanted to learn more about him. He said he stopped blaming his parents for who he was. When I heard that, something just like flipped in my mind. If I watched Beef before I heard that, I feel like that switch would have flipped in my mind the same way. When you're young, you don't realize that you are a result of who your parents are and what they teach you and how they treat you. And I will say first and foremost that my parents are very loving and they took care of me the best way that they could at that stage. They were very young parents, and I will say that if I did not have the time to grow and learn at this age, I would not be anywhere near the person that I am today. They were just forced to be parents when they were still kids, and I feel like this is something that a lot of people can relate to. Obviously, if I was a parent at like 18, 17, I would be totally different because I didn't have that time to focus on myself and grow and to face my insecurities and to be a better person and to realize who I am and what I want from my life. And again, I'm not saying this to like put my parents on blast at all. Like, my parents are great parents and I love them very much. As I got older, I started to realize like maybe my temper or impatience is something that I saw growing up. That's why I am who I am. I would accept that I'm just impatient sometimes. I'm just temperamental sometimes. I'm just a bad communicator. I would actually believe that this is who I was. It wasn't until the past couple of years that I realized I do not have to be those things. I do not have to be a impatient or short-tempered person for the rest of my life. I can literally be whoever I want. When you understand that if you want to be a patient person, if you want to be an understanding person, if you want to be the kindest person, you can be all of those things as long as you put in the mental effort. It takes a lot of work, and I basically just had to let go of my ego. First of all, I had to understand what the ego was, which I can get into a whole nother video about because I thought I understood what an ego was, but I had no idea what an ego was and the different types of egos there are. I had to recognize that I had an ego and that I had a sense of pride in situations where like my back's against the wall, like I want to turn around and run away. I had to look at all the behaviors that I didn't like about myself and finally take accountability for it and stop blaming my parents for generational trauma. And I know that this will look different for every single person out there because we all experience different things, but we have to first understand that everything that we don't like about ourselves comes from an outer influence. If someone has the power to influence us and make us someone that we don't want to be, we should have the uppermost power to turn ourselves into someone that we want to be. That is something that I try to practice every single day. Like if I catch myself doing something that like I know I'll regret later, or saying something I'll regret later, or being reactive, I try to remind myself that it doesn't have to be this way. You don't have to be like this. How can I reverse this and stop myself from spiraling? Again, going back to Beef, after all the crap that they went through, out of anger, they came together and somehow found love for each other, love and understanding. If we just look at each other like brother and sister, how would we treat each other? We would treat each other so much differently. We would have way more compassion, way more empathy, way more understanding. Like they were taking it so personal. Like, why are you honking at me? Why are you flipping me off? Why are you about to back into my car? They were taking it so personally when it had nothing to do with them. They were each having their own crap to deal with in their personal lives, and they were just taking it out on random people that they didn't even know. I loved those awakening moments in the show. I just hope that that show was just like very eye-opening for a lot of people who struggle with awareness and understanding, communication. Those three things are just so crucial to how you live your everyday life. And if you don't have those under control, like it can be so like just like gripping for how you live and how you react to things. And it could just turn you into someone that like you just hate. I think the biggest lesson of it all is that everybody just wants to be loved and to be understood. If we all just train ourselves to not take things so personally and to initiate conversations, the world will just be a better place. Overall, I would rate that show a 7.3. I understand the pacing of the show is very intentional, just like the offbeatness of it, but there were some times when I felt like the editing could have been altered in a way to make it more suiting. Even an offbeat pace for a film, I notice has to be properly offbeat. And I don't know, I'm kind of like a crazy critic with like film and shows, but other than that, like some of the script was a little bit weak. The whole Filipino thing was just like overdone. I'm not taking it personally. I don't care if it was Filipino, Japanese, or whatever. It doesn't matter. I just felt like that line was just used way too much. Other than that, the cinematography was great. The angles, the color grading was very impressive. And I just love films or shows that can make you look at yourself in the mirror and just like, damn, like you're kind of just faced with the things that you don't like about yourself or things that you feel like you need to work on. Those type of films or shows definitely leave like an imprint on me, and they make me think about it afterwards and make me want to discuss it with people. I hope people saw that show for more than just humor. It had a lot of thought-provoking topics. Let me know what you thought about the show and what you took away from it. I'm curious to know. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe and the bell notification to be notified when I upload next, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!